Greetings, adventurers, and welcome back to my channel with a continuation of a very long series games I have played. Today, touching on a game called Blue Planet. I don't remember a lot about the system at all. I vaguely remember something about D10s and dice pools, but I don't know if that's accurate or not. So I'm going to kind of leave that and just focus on kind of what the game was. I first heard, or should I say read, about Blue Planet some point in the mid-00s. I read a very basic sort of review online. I don't know how I found it, but it basically spoke of a science fiction role-playing game that revolved around colony ships having reached another planet. It's a huge water world with a series of islands or archipelagos, that sort of thing. And, you know, whatever, 100 years, 50 years before, the ships have landed and they've converted these ships into new settlements on these islands. And time has passed by, you've now got people living on this planet and under the waters of this planet. And it came across as a very sci-fi under the sea rather than sci-fi in space. Except everybody is human. There are no aliens. Although one of the source books did give rules, if the GM allowed it, for playing cybernetically enhanced dolphins or orcas, which was kind of mind-blowing but slightly cool at the same time. And I was very intrigued by this because I love stuff to do with under the sea. I love the whole sort of ocean and what's down there and what lives down there and all this. So it kind of really sort of grabbed me. I finally picked up the rule book and a couple of source books a couple of years later at a convention here in the UK called Dragon Meet, which meets down in Kensington every year, every December. And ultimately I ended up being a little bit disappointed because while it's very true, it is a sci-fi setting set beneath the sea, it's basically a Subnautica version of cyberpunk. You know, there's corporations and powerful, rich individuals run everything, and the characters are basically shadow runners, for lack of a better term. Cybernetics, hackers. If you know your cyberpunk genre, you know kind of what you're looking at, except you're dealing with an aquatic world and submarines, which was what I found really disappointing because that's not what I was looking for. I was looking for a game that had these underwater cities where you could, you know, submersibles instead of spaceships, and you could basically play what you would normally play in sort of like a Traveller or a Star Wars or whatever, but that's not what the game wanted. I kind of wanted something where you had this sort of level of civilization, but you also had exploration of the seas. You also had the fact that there's probably giant Leviathan life forms down in those deep trenches, and possibly the hint of alien civilization, past, present, or asleep. And you did kind of have that in Blue Planet, but it was never sort of said what was what. And I don't recall there being any rules for the aquatic wildlife either, which is kind of odd because you'd think there'd be some sort of shark equivalent or octopus equivalent or something. And the concept of sort of some sort of ancient life down there, intelligent ancient life, is kind of glimpsed and glossed over. There's no sort of reference to it, there's nothing, but it kind of leaves you hints if you as the GM wanted to include that. Ultimately though, we played it for probably a half dozen or so sessions because there were scenarios in the books, and we came up with one or two of our own, but it ended up just being a very kind of boring, actually boring is not the right word, disappointing cyberpunk style game. I think even the players were kind of expecting something different, But it's kind of given me, moving on to something a bit more positive, the idea of perhaps that science fiction setting that I was expecting to write something like that. Find a generic system that would suit it, and see whether I can make that work, and whether anybody would be interested, actually. Because I think Blue Planet had potential if they'd taken it in a different way. You know, as I say, I was looking for something a bit different than what I got. And I suppose that sort of coloured my perceptions on it ever since. I don't own the books anymore. I sold them off a few years ago because it wasn't what I was looking for. But you know, but if you don't look for these things, if you find something on the internet and you don't, you know, game wise, and you go, oh, that could be interesting, you've got to look it up. You've got to see it, whether it's what you wanted or what have you. And I looked up Blue Planet, and initially, you know, was really interested. We gave it a try. I say we actually did have fun with the campaign. It wasn't like it was a chore or what have you. Just not what we were looking for. Anyway, not much. That's been a really downer sort of video. I didn't intend that at all. I was kind of just. This particular game, for some reason, has come into my mind lately, and that's what made me do the vid. It wasn't a bad game. Before I'm being too negative on it. Anyway, had you got any experiences with Blue Planet? If you played it, read it, wanted to play it, I'd be interested to hear your thoughts, see what you think of it in the comments down below. If you enjoyed the vid, give me a thumbs up. That would be really helpful. And if you enjoy the content that I put out, please give me a subscription. Big smile there. That would also be really great. Anyway, we're coming up now on RPGA 2021, so I'm going to start doing them as of Sunday, 2 days time. So I look forward to seeing you there as well. Anyway, take care guys, and good gaming.